Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 64 for you guys today. Of course, this episode is going to be coming out on all four of our platforms: our Instagram account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account, and our Apple Podcast account. So today, we have a big day lined up for segments of the Combat Series for boxing and UFC. First off, we're going to start off with the first segment for predicting my fight prediction on the Canelo Alvarez card in the main event of that card between Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga. So Canelo Alvarez, the unified super middleweight champion, will be defending all three of his titles, the WBC, WBO, and WBA world titles, against Edgar Berlanga on Mexican Independence Weekend. This will also be another rivalry that could be written in the rivalry between Mexican fighters and Puerto Rican fighters. Canelo obviously being a Mexican fighter and Edgar Berlanga being a Puerto Rican fighter. So let's head into the storylines for this fight. Now, is Edgar Berlanga truly ready for Canelo Alvarez? This is going to be the biggest fight of his career. First time being on a pay-per-view, first time headlining a pay-per-view, first time being in the main event of a pay-per-view. Edgar Berlanga is getting one hell of an opportunity, fighting the cash cow, a pound-for-pound great, a legend and an icon of the sport of boxing, Canelo Alvarez, this early on in his boxing career. And to be honest with you guys, we all know the history of Edgar Berlanga being a part of Bob Arum and ESPN Top Rank. When he was with Top Rank Promotions, he was being elevated slowly to build his career up. When he had the momentum of having 16 straight wins, coming of 16 straight knockout victories coming in the first round. And he's been moving up the ladder ever since in this super middleweight division, but has yet to win a world title and does not have any notable victories in this super middleweight division. I mean, he's never beaten a contender like Caleb Plant. He's never beaten a contender like David Benavidez. He's never beaten a contender like David Morrell. I can keep going on, or Jaime Mugina. I can keep going on and on of contenders that Edgar Berlanga hasn't fought and contenders he hasn't beaten. And he finds himself in this opportunity against Canelo Alvarez, getting a shot to win 3 out of the 4 prestigious titles in the super middleweight division. This is going to be crazy. It's going to be really interesting to see how Edgar Berlanga handles the pressure, what type of experience he brings to the table against Canelo Alvarez. It's going to be interesting to see Saturday night in the main event of this card between Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga. Now, my final storyline for this fight is Canelo Alvarez leaning towards the money more than the legacy at this point of his boxing career? Don't get me wrong, Canelo Alvarez has had over 60 boxing fights in his boxing career. And he finds himself at age 33, 34 years of age. But at this point, is he leaning towards more of the money than the legacy? Because on this Mexican Independence Weekend, you could have fought David Benavidez, which could have been a huge Mexican versus Mexican fight for Mexican Independence Weekend. David Benavidez is one of the most up-and-coming rising stars that the sport of boxing has to offer. He's been the mandatory for your WBC world title for 3 years at this division. It got so bad, David Benavidez had to move up to 175 to the light heavyweight division to try to get a title opportunities there, chasing Dimitri Bivol or Arthur Beterbiev. So instead of fighting contenders like David Benavidez and David Morrell, Canelo Alvarez decides to go the route and continues to fight B-plus fighters. He did that against Jaime Mugina, who in my opinion could be an A-plus fighter one day, but at this particular time, he's a B-plus fighter, and he chose to fight Jaime Mugina over those two respective talented fighters. Then, you just chose to fight Edgar Berlanga this weekend, and that's a reason why Canelo Alvarez finds himself holding 3 out of the 4 titles at this particular point, and no longer being the IBF world champion at this division, because he got the title stripped from him. And William Skull was the #1 contender for the IBF title. You could have fought your mandatory and William Skull, which probably would have been a more competitive fight than what we're going to see between Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga this weekend. So, again, a storyline is Canelo Alvarez leaning towards the money over the legacy at this particular point of his boxing career. Now, let's get into the tail of the tape. Starting off with the challenger, Edgar Berlanga is 22-0, 22 victories, 17 victories coming way of knockout, stands at 6'1" and has a reach advantage of 73 inches. Then I'm looking at the champion, Canelo Alvarez, Canelo Alvarez has 61 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws to his resume. He has a total of 39 victories come away of knockout. Currently the reigning defending unified super middleweight champion. Stands at 5'7" and has a reach advantage of 70 inches. So the height and the reach advantage goes in heavy favor of the challenger Edgar Berlanga. It's going to be interesting to see how Edgar Berlanga handles that in the fight when he's face-to-face, toe-to-toe fighting Canelo Alvarez this Saturday. So these are the following game plans that I have for these respective fighters to follow heading into this fight if they want to walk out of the T-Mobile Arena with championship gold around their waist. Starting off with the challenger, Edgar Berlanga. Now, I think Edgar Berlanga is going to have to establish his power early on in this fight. He's going to have to make Canelo Alvarez respect him in some type of way. And Edgar Berlanga does have some power, does have some pop to his punches when he's in the boxing ring. Now, the power for Edgar Berlanga is there. He has 17 victories come way of knockout, like I just said. Once upon a time, he had 16 straight first-round knockout victories when he was coming up fighting for ESPN Top Rank and climbing up in the boxing world. And if he wants to have a chance to establish his power against Canelo Alvarez, who is a powerful puncher his damn self, he's going to have to make him respect him early on in that boxing ring, set the tempo of the fight, put your foot on the gas pedal, and hit Canelo Alvarez with some hard shots to make Canelo Alvarez question what he's going to do next when he's coming fighting forward as the fight goes on. So I think that's going to be very important for Edgar Berlanga. The next thing for Edgar Berlanga, he cannot afford to make mistakes. Edgar Berlanga, like I just said, let's call a spade. Once again, he is a B-plus fighter at this particular point because you haven't shown me anything else that have the right for me to call you an A-plus fighter if needed. And I've seen Edgar Berlanga in the past watching a fight and watching him recently on film that he makes mistakes in this boxing ring. He's been dropped in the ring before making mistakes. And we can see that he takes the nicknames that he gets given to him very lightly. The Mike Tyson comparison, when Mike Tyson was on that KO sprawl at the beginning part of his career. Edgar Berlanga took it too far one day and tried to bite his opponent's neck in the middle of the boxing ring because he kept hearing the Mike Tyson comparisons, tried to bite his opponent's ear off in the boxing ring. So he's got to be alert defensively. He can't play too much into the T-Mobile Arena crowd in Vegas. He has to be laser focused on Canelo Alvarez, and he cannot afford to make one mistake because one mistake could be the end of the fight for Edgar Berlanga. He has to be alert defensively and not make mistakes. Now, last but not least, Edgar Berlanga is going to have to fight coming forward. Edgar Berlanga, when you watch him on tape, he does fight comfortably fighting forward. And I feel like if he's going to fight coming forward and he likes to get his opponents on the ropes, Canelo Alvarez is retreating, fighting backwards, he can get Canelo Alvarez posted up on the ropes with Canelo's back leaning on the ropes. And I think it could help Edgar Berlanga land some power jabs, a right hook, and work to the body. What Floyd Mayweather and Demetrius Bivol, the only two fighters that did beat Canelo Alvarez very decisively, they went to the body. They landed jabs, had a stiff, mean jab coming, and they worked to the body. That is the blueprint of beating Canelo Alvarez. And if Edgar Berlanga wants any chance of winning this fight, he's going to have to walk down Canelo Alvarez, land his powerful jab, have Canelo Alvarez retreating, fighting on his back foot, fighting backwards instead of forward, and work to the body. That's Edgar Berlanga's best chances of winning this fight. That's my game plan for the challenger, Edgar Berlanga. Now, let's go to the champion, Canelo Alvarez. Now, chinny chin chin. Expose that chin. Expose it because and I feel like Edgar Berlanga doesn't have a strong chin. Like I just said, I've seen him get dropped in the boxing ring before, and if you get dropped in a fight, there's nothing wrong with that. But the way Edgar Berlanga got dropped by a C-plus fighter at the time speaks volumes of how strong his chin, or suspect his chin, really is. So I think if Canelo Alvarez can establish his power early and hit Edgar Berlanga with one clean shot, it might only take one clean shot for Edgar Berlanga to possibly retire, take a knee, possibly retire in the fight, I should say. Possibly retire in the fight, take a knee, let the referee count in his face up to 10, based off of the power that Canelo Alvarez still has. And I feel like one clean shot to the chin could lead to a knockout victory for Canelo Alvarez. So I would test his chin early on and establish his power very early on for Canelo to do that to Edgar Berlanga. Now, I think Canelo Alvarez is going to have to capitalize on Edgar Berlanga's mistakes. I mean, Edgar Berlanga, at times, watching him defensively, has gotten clipped with jabs. A stiff jab coming down the middle could catch Edgar Berlanga's whole alert system off. It can be very off, and he gets caught with a lot of counter punches. Canelo Alvarez is one hell of a counter puncher, one of the best counter punchers still in the sport of boxing. So I think the jab and the counter punch and capitalizing on Edgar Berlanga's mistakes are going to be key for Canelo Alvarez. And last but not least, cut the ring off. Now, I said for Edgar Berlanga to walk down Canelo Alvarez, but we all know when Canelo Alvarez dissects his opponent, he really gets going in the fight, he cuts the ring off. It could be a bad night in the office if Canelo Alvarez cuts the ring off and makes Edgar Berlanga have no really other choice to really move vertically around the boxing ring. And Edgar Berlanga doesn't fighting backwards, and when he's not in control of the fight. That's when Edgar Berlanga could get himself into trouble. And if Canelo Alvarez forces him to fight backwards on his back foot, it could be an easy night in the office for Canelo Alvarez fighting Edgar Berlanga. So, with that being said, I'm going to go with Canelo Alvarez to pick up this victory against Edgar Berlanga by knockout in the 6th round. The successful retain his unified super middleweight titles in the sport of boxing this week on a Mexican Independence weekend. Now, Canelo Alvarez is a smart businessman. He picked Edgar Berlanga for a reason. He wants a knockout victory to give his Mexican fan base something to be proud of on Mexican Independence weekend. And we know Canelo Alvarez has said that he wants to knock out Edgar Berlanga because he's been talking a lot of shit and the come up for this fight. So I think Edgar Berlanga is tailor-made for Canelo Alvarez to get the knockout victory. I think Canelo Alvarez wants that knockout victory because he hasn't had a knockout victory since 2021 when he knocked out Caleb Plant. But I lean towards Canelo Alvarez due to experience. I think Edgar Berlanga has a very suspect chin. I think Canelo Alvarez is going to test that out very early on in this fight. And I think Canelo Alvarez is going to cut the ring off and make sure Edgar Berlanga really doesn't have anywhere to go in this boxing ring. Edgar Berlanga fights very uncomfortably when he's not in control of the fight and he's fighting on his back foot and retreating. I think that's when Canelo Alvarez is going to smell blood in the water. He's going to work to the body. He's going to win the counter-punching battle. He's going to land those jabs. And that's also Edgar Berlanga's kryptonite. He can't stop a jab and he can't win a counter-punching battle. So Canelo Alvarez is going to have his way against Edgar Berlanga. I am expecting a 6th round knockout for Canelo Alvarez to pick up the win, and another showdown between a Mexican and Puerto Rican fighters in the sport of boxing this weekend. So that is my Canelo Alvarez versus Edgar Berlanga fight prediction.